I am live. This video is going to be about delusional women. Um, this is your boy, Internal Sadist. It's your boy, Internal Sadist. This video is going to be about delusional women. There we go. Much better. So here's going to be about delusional women. Um, Typically, what I'm going to talk about is women who tend to believe believe that they know what a man wants, when in fact they're doing the exact opposite what a man wants, or they're doing exactly what they will want in a man. And these are typically those type of women that I'm going to be talking about today. The women who always talk about women always talk about how how to get a man or how they want a man, and they're basically trying to project the same things that they want in a man onto what they believe a man wants. On top of that, you also got the women who kind of sort of live in a fantasy world where, like, they think men want somebody to take care of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a few men in this world that like to be taken care of, but most men actually like to do the taking care of, um, which is actually the problem of today. A lot of people don't seem to get or understand is that, especially with women, they get caught up in this grand delusion that they know what a man wants, when in fact they don't know what a man wants in the least bit, which really sucks sometimes, because once you think about it, it ends up being one of those things where you run into problems and you have to basically fix it or remedy it for all intents and purposes. And the problem with that, though, is you end up with people who don't seem to know, or seem to think that they believe that they know what the opposite sex wants, when in fact they went so far from knowing what the opposite sex wants to to projecting what they believe the opposite sex wants in a woman. And the sad part about that, a lot of women suck at this nowadays because they're too busy wrapped up in their own stuff. They're too busy self-absorbed in their own self that they don't know what the actual man wants. They tend to project what they want onto a man and believe that a man should be happy about with something that she will want as a woman, which is typically the problem. Men don't really care if a woman is educated or not. Unless you come from certain cultures, men don't care if a woman's educated or not. At the end of the day, they also don't care if what school you went to, or what your education level is. They also don't care about things along the lines of how smart you are and stuff like that. They only care about how witty you are so you can solve problems, not how smart you are in school. That's what they only care about. They only care about how witty you are in solving problems. And the problem is, women tend to miss the mark on this, and they tend to lose out for the fact that a lot of times, once you go to school, you tend to lose street smarts or wits for book smarts. That sounds cool and all, but when you can't think how to do something simply in the simplest basis, you tend to mess up your prospects of actual dating, which really sucks once you think about it. When you mess up your own prospects in dating, but they get mad at men because men don't want what women want. Men want what men want, not what women want. And this is usually the conundrum that we run into in this day and age, where you got everybody running around here, all the women running around here saying that, I got an education. He should want a woman with an education. No, that's not what he wants. Or they're running around here talking about, like, I can wait to have children. Well, that's not what a man wants. Um, And the sad part about that, women wait so damn long. They wait themselves out of the wait. They make themselves out of the market. And it's just facts. I mean, what more can you do when you wait yourself out of the market? You can't blame nobody else for waiting you out of the market. You're the one that chose to wait yourself out of the market. I mean, granted, your prospects are very slim, but it was kind of sort of your choice at that point in time. So you can't blame men for something you chose to do and something a career path that you actually chose to put yourself in, or the line of fire that you chose to put yourself in too. What's up, what's up, Seeker? How you doing today, pimping? And this is typically the problem that a lot of women run into when they try to think of all the stuff that they want, and then try to turn around and project it onto men and saying this is what men want, or this is what they believe men want. The problem is men don't want that. Men want a lady. Men want a feminine woman. Men want a feminine touch. Men want a woman that is able to be a woman, not pretend to be a woman, or not a fake woman for all intents and purposes. This is typically the problem that a lot of women run into when they go out in the dating market. They tend to run into heartache or upset, or they pick the wrong person because choices, which is actually pretty funny once you think about it, because they always talk about this women's intuition, and they pick the wrong person. Then what happened to women's intuition? Then when it goes from women's intuition, I know, to I never knew. Like, wait, you have women's intuition supposedly. How didn't you know? I find it hard to believe that you don't know. It's one of those things where you got to roll your eyes so hard in the back of your head, they damn near get stuck or you get a headache. When you listen to women talk like that, like, you have women's intuition, but this time you didn't know. Like, but women's intuition though, but you didn't know. Like, it's like the funniest stuff in the world. And when you always when you always got to listen to them talk and stuff like that, it's like just the funniest shit in the world. But the sad part about it is like how a lot of them like try to explain themselves out of the messes that they get themselves in. They'll try to pull the they'll try to pull the I didn't know, or they'll pull the he it kind of snuck up on me, or he charmed the heck out of me. Like, no, 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 no. And often I often wonder about women if they would even know what charm was if it bit them in the ass. Because I tend to think about stuff like that, because it's like, really, he charmed you now, right? That makes a lot of sense, lady. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to go stand over there in the corner and slap yourself in the face several times. Just palm the face repeatedly, because you sound stupid right now. But yeah, it's just stuff like that that just blows my mind when you hear women say that crap. But often the sad cold hard truth is how they go about trying to explain that away, or how they try to, instead of taking responsibility for their own actions, they try to blame others for their actions, which ends up being pretty darn funny. It's like some of the funniest stuff in the world, and you tend to wonder. Wait a minute, what about a sex bot? I missed something. Shoot, I missed something in my comment section. Holy crap! But anyway, um, oh, the talking text. Okay, got it. Okay, I understand what that. Okay, I understand. I ain't missed it. All right. So the funny thing about it is, like, you'll run into the women will run into the problem of not realizing or understanding the full gravity of the situation that they're in, and they'll pretty much put off having children, which a man doesn't want, and they'll basically go to school and get an education to stunt, which a man really doesn't care about and wants. He could care less if you got an education or not, for all intents and purposes. And this is typically the problem that a lot of women have. They try to project these things or these feelings onto people. They try to project these things or these things that they want in a man onto men, and try to then get mad because that's not what men want, or they don't understand why men don't want that. When in fact, the problem is these are things you want. These aren't things that men want. This is where women mess up. This is where women miss the mark. What's up, Americus? This is where women always shoot themselves in the foot for all intents and purposes by doing this stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you get caught up. They get caught up in the pointless things or the small things, and it's like one of those things where it's like, what is the point of this? What is the actual meaning of this? Why is this even a thing? Where is this going? What is the problem? Why are you in this situation? And they don't seem to know the answers to that. Well, they tend to blame the answer to that on men not wanting to date them, or they'll say men are too immature to want to date them. And it's typically stuff like that. The funny thing about stuff like that is you tend to run into women who tend to believe because they want this in a man that a man should want this in a woman, when in fact these are two totally different roles. This is typically why they're trying to, blur the lines between gender roles or gender norms, because they're trying to make it so they don't have to change and men have to change. You see what I'm saying? It's something that I've actually noticed lately. They're basically trying to make it to the point where, like, men have to change to capitulate to what they actually want in a man. They want men to want in a woman at the same time. But the sad part about that, what a woman wants in a man and what a man wants in a woman is two totally different things at the end of the day. And the sad part about that, women are trying to change the gender norms, if you ever noticed that, to basically try to make it so it's like one of those things where it's like you have to capitulate to this, or you're a chauvinist, or you're a sexist, or you're a sexist pig, or you're this, you're that, you're this and the other. And it's like all these crazy retarded terms that they come up with. It's just ridiculous. All these terms that they come up with is just nonsensical. And it's one of those things where, like, you have to realize at some point that you messed up and now you have to fix this yourself. If you don't fix it yourself, then it's going to suck being you. And women have a problem with doing this all the damn time, and they always try to pass blame onto men instead of actually taking ownership for their own actions, which is typically something that they're doing lately. What's up, casual bachelor? I gotta get you a wrench, pimpin'. I gotta get you a wrench. But this is something that they typically do when they run into problems and they're trying to figure out what the heck it is that they want in a man. They're trying to actually project on to men when wanting in women. And the sad part about that, that's not what a man wants. Then they get mad at you for telling them that's not what a man wants, because I should be ashamed of myself for what I want. No, it's not that. I'm not ashamed of what I want. It's what I want. So I'm gonna need you to either need you to give it to me, or I'm gonna need you to get out my face. It's typically how I feel about women who do try to pull that crap on a regular basis. Like, no, lady, get out my face. Get out my face. I'm gonna need you to either live up to this, or I'm gonna need you to get out my face with this bull crap. Because the sad part about that is there's a lot of men who will do some of the most ridiculous stuff to get women. And the sad part about that, they end up not getting that woman. Then they wonder why they're in the messes that they're in, or they wonder why they're so sad. But the sad part about that, women don't really follow they don't really follow the whole entire things that women want, and women want to get upset and they wonder why they're lonely. Because the sad part about that, women suck at taking cues. If you've ever noticed, women suck at taking social cues, and this is a problem that they're running into lately with the whole entire, they're trying to blur the lines between the genders and stuff like that. They're set up here trying to blur the lines between the genders so they can actually make it so that they can actually make the rules and rebend the rules so it can fit them, so they don't have to change. This is typically all it really is. They basically are trying to bend the rules so they don't have to change, anything about themselves when in fact they probably should, and it'd probably be better for them rat race wise, not really rat race wise, I should say, but yeah, rat race wise, to get a relationship and do all this stuff. It'd be better for them to just do that. However, they don't want to do that, and they want to be what's a nice way of putting it? They want to be simple-minded about it, and they tend to get themselves into a lot of the messes that they're in by doing so, which really sucks once you think about it. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like almost like a Darwin theory type thing. Because the sad part about that, these women are literally like, waiting themselves outside the market, and then like, erasing themselves from existence, which is actually pretty nice. Because I look at it like this: women who are actually erasing themselves from existence. I believe in Darwinism. So if you're going to wait and then not have any offspring, then that means I ain't got to worry about your offspring. That means less offspring that I have to worry about growing up in this world that's going to act like you. It's typically how I feel about it, and that's legit. Like, well, you don't want to have children? That's good. Your lineage is going to die off, and we ain't got to worry about you. Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you have to worry about like stuff like that to basically make it so that it's okay, or make it so that you know make it so that it can remotely be a thing that you want or you're used to. And the sad part about that is when you run into that problem, people seem to think or think that it's okay to get upset and read about stuff that shouldn't even be read about, or people get upset and they try to pretend like it's not anything like that, or it's or they believe that they know what a man wants, when in fact they know very little about what a man wants, which really sucks once you think about it. And it's one of those things where it's like, really, dude? Really? This is what we doing now? This is what we doing now. And the sad part about it is when people run into those problems, they tend to think that they know what the opposite sex wants, when in fact they don't. They know very little about what the opposite sex wants, because they're basically trying to put what they want onto the opposite sex. They're trying to project what they want onto the opposite sex for all intents and purposes. So when they sit up there and do it, it's one of those things where they actually literally think about the shit. It's one of the things where they actually got to think about the shit, and they wonder why they're in the messes that they're in, or they wonder why they're single at 30 something, or they wonder why they can't find a man, or they wonder where all the good men gone, or they wonder where all the economically attractive men are, or they wonder why all this great stuff, why all the great stuff is, or why it actually doesn't exist for them, or why things aren't going their way is another good thing, and stuff like that. And you always wonder this shit, and it's kind of funny how that works, because it's typically one of those things where like they have to instead of actually making necessary adjustments to fix themselves or fix what they need to do, they try to make it sound as if men are the ones that's not up with the times, or men aren't the ones who are following the rules, when in fact, first off, one, there are no rules. Two, you're the one that messed up the rules in the first damn place. And three, you're basically trying to project what you want onto men. You want a man that goes to school. A man doesn't want a woman that goes to school. There are very few men that actually want a woman that's educated and goes to school. It's that simple. So that's one of them things that you got to fix yourself, or sort out yourself, when it comes down to it. Because if you can't, you might get left behind. And the sad part about that, just because Bush signed into act the No Child Left Behind law, you're not a child, you're an adult. You got to grow up now and realize what you're messing up in, so you can actually get the person you actually want. The sad part about that is not all men want a woman who's educated. Not all men want a woman who went to school for several thousand years for all intents and purposes. Because at the end of the day, once you think about it, when it comes to babies or being able to make babies, that's typically the problem that a lot of women run into. Because like the best way I can describe the whole entire fertility window is dog years, and that's probably stretching it. Dog years is the best way I can describe the maternity window. Think of it like dog years. Like what's the one, the Great Dane dog years for all intents and purposes. So the bigger the dog, the less the years. So 15 years, sometimes less than that, basically. So that's about your window for having children. And the sad part about that, what's up, Blackville Radio? And the sad part about that is what a lot of people fail to realize about a lot of the stuff that they do is that women always want to try to pretend like they know what a man wants instead of actually learning what a man wants. It's like anytime that conversation comes up, it's like, well, you can't speak on that conversation, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. When in fact, we're the ones who actually know what we want. Or they'll try to say men don't know what they want. They want immature little girls, or they want, stupid. They always want stupid stuff that makes no sense whatsoever. And it's so funny how that actually works. Um, and it's funny how that stuff works when it comes down to it. And it's like, really, dude, this is not what I want. This is not anything that I want. Period. Why am I even going to pretend? Why am I even going to pretend like? Why am I going to pretend to entertain this bull crap? Because at the end of the day, this bull crap is this what it is bull crap. And this is something women don't seem to get or understand about men. We want what we want. You can't change the fact that we want what we want. Um, and this is the problem with women. Like, no, this is not what we want. I'm gonna need you to actually fix what we want. I'm gonna need you to actually get. I'm gonna need you to actually figure out what we actually want and actually go with what we want instead of actually going with what you want us to go with for all intents and purposes. Because at the end of the day, you can't tell us what we're attracted to at the end of the day because that's just totally bullshit. You telling us what we're attracted to is bullshit. We're attracted to what we're attracted to. And if you can't understand that or accept that, then that's on you. That's your loss. That's not a man's loss. That's your loss. And this is the problem that a lot of women have when they try to pull this crap. They always want to pretend or make it seem as if, men are the one that are messed up for not wanting them, when in fact they're the ones that are actually the messed up ones for trying to tell men what they want or trying to sort out what men want or trying to project what they want onto men. They're the ones that's actually psychologically messed up at the end of the day. Because once you think about it, this is typically what women do. They'll pretend like they know everything and then like be upset when they don't know anything. And like Casual Bastard said, men are simple creatures. We don't care about this extra shit. We don't care about, any of this other stuff. We just care about the simple things. Like, we care about the simple things in life. Because the sad part about that, like I said, men don't buy houses just to buy houses. They buy houses to get women. That's typically how that works. And that's pretty much all it really ever will be. They buy houses to get women. They don't buy houses because it's the cool thing to do. They buy houses to get women. They buy cars to get women. Anything they buy is basically to get women for all intents and purposes. And the sad part about that, women don't seem to get this or understand this lovely concept. And this is where they always mess up at, or they always try to say, well, they want a man who makes more money than them. Well, Now and the sad part about that is like that sounds good and all, but you've also got to take consideration too. When you start making a lot more money, that pool actually gets very, very small. So now you don't really now you don't not only did you not only did you wait yourself out of the market, you don't price yourself out of the market too now. Like think about that. You waited yourself out of the market when you waited to have children and you waited to settle down and you waited to do all this stuff. You priced yourself out of you waited yourself out of the market. Now you're pricing yourself out of the market. Think about that. And the sad part about they'll go, well, I want a man that makes this much money. The sad part about those men is those men are actually looking at women who didn't go to school. Those women who have more time to spend at home with the children. There's women that have more time to actually do stuff around the house and actually make a happy home. Those are typically the type of women that those men are actually going for. I mean, those are the type of women, yeah, those men are going for. And the sad part about that is women get this so messed up, it's ridiculous, or they pretend like they know what a man wants, and they end up like just they end up feeling slighted, like oh hell, and it's like one of those things where it's like, well, if you didn't pretend like you wanted to know what a man wanted, you wouldn't be in this mess in the first damn place. This is typically the problem with a lot of women. They tend to always pretend like they know what a man wants when in fact all you got to do is ask what a man wants, or all you got to do is listen to what a man wants instead of trying to pretend like you know what a man wants. This is the reason why you're in the messes you're in. This is the reason why you price yourself out of the market. This is the reason why you waited yourself out of the market. And the sad part about that is about waiting to have children, you really done waited yourself out of the market. You done pretty much eliminated yourself from the market at that point, because at the end of the day, this is typically what happens with a lot of the women who have children late in life. The later a woman has children, and I talked about this in another stream, because people will say, well, she hit the wall at 35. Well, no, it all depends on the woman's genetics. The sad part about that is a lot of women in the Western world tend to hit the fertility wall between 27. I would say a lot of women hit the fertility wall between 25 and like 25 and 30. A lot of women actually hits the fertility wall. 25 and 30, a lot of women hit the fertility wall. And the sad part about that is when they do it, it sucks in the Western world for the fact that they're trying to live on a notion that is so false it's ridiculous. And this is typically a lot of the problems that a lot of women run into. They're trying to they're trying to live on this notion that they can pull this shit off when in fact, oh well, such and such had Serena Williams Serena Williams had children at like that age, so I can have children at that age. Brushing off the fact that she had a preeclampsia problem and she damn near killed herself in the hospital, brushing that right off to the side, like that didn't just happen. Just stuff like this where and it's just one of those things that makes it so funny when it happens when women do this. It's like, well, I can do this because such and such did this. The problem with it is a lot of women, like I said, a lot of women run into fertility problems nowadays in this day and age in the Western world. They run into that problem. They start running into problems between 25 and 30. So the sad part about that, hitting the wall isn't just, your looks. Hitting the wall is your fertility. Hitting the wall is your looks. Hitting the wall is your peak marketplace value. And the sad part about that, we got men making videos talk about, oh man, men still want to hit this. Well, that's nice and all. You want to hit that. I don't want to hit that. That's your thing. That's your bag. You do that. You handle that yourself, pimping, because I'm not touching that. I wouldn't touch it if we was the last people on earth and I had to bring everybody back from the dead. And the only way I could do it was smash that. I'm not smashing that. Everybody's dead. I don't care. And it's like one of those things where like you got to have standards. You got to have standards about yourself. Because a man that's willing to lower his standards or have no standards at all, this is typically the reason why you're in the manosphere now, because you fucked up and lowered your standards to the point of no return. And this is why you're in the manosphere. And the sad part about that, there's a lot of men running around here talking about, I'm smashing this chick who's in her 30s or her 40s and she looks like she's in her 20s. Okay, that's nice because she looks like she's in her 20s. But does the factory still work like she's in her 20s? And that's the problem that I have with a lot of men. Like, dude, no, you can't come to me talk about this 35-year-old or this 40-year-old or this however the old this woman is looks good. It doesn't work like that. The question is, what is she doing? What is she doing to better herself? What is she doing that's not that's conducive to her, her growth and her lineage? And the sad part about that, a lot of women are just waiting. They're just waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're doing stupid shit like, we're talking. No, we're not talking about retirement plans. We're talking about like, when a man's actually out there, when a man's out there simping in the world and he's looking for a woman, basically, typically, he buys a house or a car to get a woman for all intents and purposes. This is typically the reason why. Later in life, he basically does it for himself. But early in life, when he's actually out there on the dating market, he buys a car so he can get girls. It's typically how that works. That's what I was talking about, Americus. But I'm not buying no damn bags for no woman. She gotta buy that shit her damn self. She got a job, she could buy it. Typically how I feel about that. You want a purse, you go buy it. But the sad part about that is when women run into this problem, they tend to blame men for their problems, when in fact it's actually their problems that they created themselves. Now back to the whole entire, the wall thing. When it comes down to the wall's bigger than just looks and age. It's bigger. It's bigger than just fertility window. It's like it encompasses a lot of stuff about a woman. Her overall market value is basically her value that she actually has in the market. And the sad part about that, there's a lot of women that try to overinflate their ego. I look at it like this. I want all women to look at it like this. Whatever you think you are, on a scale of 1 to 10, every age past 25, take off 2 points. Take off 2 points. That's basically what it is. Every age past 25, take off 2 points. And that's typically how I feel about when it comes down to women, when they try to overvalue themselves. Take off 2 points. And the sad part about that, a lot of women seem to miss this. And the sad part about that is when I'm talking about this, is when I'm talking about the whole entire fertility thing, there's a lot of women who are barren, who can't have children, or, they're one-hit wonders when it comes to children, or they're, they're the one-shot people that can actually have a child 1 time or 2 times maybe. There's a lot of women that just can't have children in the Western world. Then there are women who destroy their bodies with abortions, then get upset later in life that they can't have children, or they blame the man because they can't have children. Meanwhile, they scrape the hell out of their cervix by getting so many abortions. It's ridiculous. And this is typically a lot of the problems that a lot of the women run into in this day and age when they do that shit. It's like one of those things where it's like, why are we doing this? And why are you doing this to yourself? First off. Secondly, what is the point? What is the point? And the sad part about that is a lot of times and another thing I wanted to get into with the whole entire fertility thing, this is probably going to hurt a lot of people's feelings when I say this, because there are some people who fall into this category themselves. But the sad part about that, this is what I mean about the whole entire fertility thing when it comes to it. She can have children, but are they going to be healthy children? And this is what I mean by that. Anything over 25. Now, lately in this day and age, when it comes to women, anything over that basically puts them at risk for actually having children who have medical problems or medical issues. Like a good example of like medical issues that are on a rise. I remember before it was like one in 1,000 kids actually had what is that called? 1 in 1,000 kids had autism, I believe it was, way back when. Now those numbers done went up. So I think it's like 1 in 10 kids now have like autism. And this is typically one of those things that happen when women wait to have children, autism. Because their best fertile years were basically based on their biology, not what we say in the manosphere is basically their own biology that really messes up their shit. Because like I was saying in MGTOW knowledge, MGTOW knowledge is the last stream, that the sad part about it is like we give women the benefit of the doubt, or give women this false dream that they can have children after, up until they're 30, by saying the whole entire marketplace value thing. But when in reality, it's totally based on their own genetics. It's totally based on their own genetics. So the sad part about that, women start having problems depending on culture or genetics later in their 20s, for all intents and purposes, depending on their genetics. Like I said, it's very rare where somebody literally has a healthy child that is 45 plus. And there's usually Jamaican women. Oh my God. Yeah, never date a Jamaican woman. If you don't want children, never date a Jamaican woman. Oh my God, they can have children late in life. But back to the lecture at hand. The problem with the market is we kind of sort of painted it in a way where now we want to believe that, we have women believing that, talking about the wall and believing that the wall, like, I can still have children at 30. Well, that's what the MGTOW says, or that's what the red pill says, and that's what this says, and stuff like that. And the sad part about that is, no, we actually lied to them. We actually lied to them very badly. The sad part about that, a lot of women are actually starting to have these childhood problems. A lot of women are starting to have these childhood problems at 25. Having these childbearing problems at 25, which is really sad. It's really sad. Like, and the sad part, we lied to them, tell them that they hit the wall at 30 or something like that. And the sad part about that, yeah, they might hit the wall at 30, but they probably lost a lot of other stuff between the ages of 25 to 30 that we don't really talk about. Like, it's genetics that you'll have children. It's not us. It's not us that tell you can have children or not. It's your genetics that let you know you can have children. No matter how many eggs you save. Oh, well, yeah, it's much lower now. 2020. Oh, yeah, I believe it. That sounds reasonable. And it used to be 1 in 1,000, or 1 in 1,000. Like, years ago, it used to be 1 in 1,000. Now that women are having children late in life, corroborated by their family genetics and medical history. Now it's like I believe it's 1 in 54. I'm not shocked in the least bit that it's 1 in 54, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that do, and they are pretty legit when it comes to stuff like that, because their job is to collect data. So they are pretty legit when it comes to stuff like that. And the sad part about that is, women only bought this on themselves. 1 in 54. 1 in 54. Like, think about it. If we got 54 people in a room, one of them got autism. One or one and a half of them got, 1 or 2 of them got autism. And this is typically how a lot of this stuff works. And this is typically a lot of the problems that we're running to in this day and age is autism. Autism seems to be on a rise, and people don't realize that autism is actually a thing, and they just ignore it because, there's not too much of a lot of stuff going on. Because, like they said, autism is a huge spectrum of, from not too bad to severe, for all intents and purposes. And the sad part about that is, women in this day and age, it's not even just the fact that they smoke. It's more or less the fact that how they take care of themselves when they decide to have children, that actually gets them into this mess that they're in now. Because the sad part about that is, like I said, for autism to go to 1 in 1,000 in the early 2000s to 1 in 54, this lets you know the trend that we're actually on when it comes to children. And I often wonder, to be honest with you, if a lot of these women on the left actually have autism, that actually join a lot of these crazy movements, and tend to believe, if a lot of the people on the left don't have autism altogether, which is actually another question for another day, because I often wonder about that for that reason, because people tend to fall for stuff very easily, or easily manipulated by things, or easily get themselves into stuff that they don't need to be into by listening to stuff like that. And the sad part about that is, like I said, that window, that whole entire thing that we say about women hitting the wall after 30, it really isn't a thing. I mean, it's a thing, but it's an inaccurate thing because you also got to take into consideration too. We always talk about the fertility window. It's slowly closing out after 30. When in fact, a lot of women, the fertility window already started closing at 25. And the sad part about that, we don't account for that in the least bit. When it comes to Western women, their fertility window has literally closed at 25, started closing at 25. And the sad part about that, you'll notice this because there's a higher rate of women getting hysterectomies at a young age now. Like, think about that. There's a high rate of women getting hysterectomies at a young age now. Why is that? How is that a thing? Why are women getting hysterectomies at like 20 something? Like, think about that. Like, really, really think about that. Ask yourself, why are women getting hysterectomies in their 20s? That can't be some coincidence. That can't be something that that they just made up out of nowhere. It is what it is. And this is typically a lot of the problems that a lot of people run into in this day and age when it comes down to it. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. That's very true, sadly. Yeah, it could be eugenics. Low intelligence, yeah. That's one of those things where like you have to talk about too. Like that plays a huge role. That plays a huge role in today's market and day and age. And the sad part about that is basically nothing more, like you said, than Kevlar Boucher said, a big sheep mill. Because the sad part about that is like it doesn't matter how much we tell these women that they hit the wall at 30. A lot of them are hitting the wall at 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. And the sad part about it, a lot of times by the time they get to 30, like there's nothing left of the wall in them because the wall done destroyed them and like just literally like think of it like this. At that point, for a lot of these women that literally run into these problems genetically, they smash into the wall, then the wall just smashed them and just crumbled basically around them, left them in a big pile of mess. It's typically how that works. And the sad part about that, yeah, and that's very true. 90% of their eggs are actually gone at that point, which is sucky. But they think they can save the world by saving some eggs and freezing some eggs, which is pretty sad too because the egg freezing process is not always guaranteed, and the egg freezing process is not really a proven thing to actually make sure you can actually have children. Yeah, and the sad part about that is, like women always think because a man wants them that she's attractive. And the sad part about this is how you know how the sexual marketplace works, and this is how women think. Because a man wants to have sex with her, or a man really wants her. Meanwhile, he just wants to have sex with her, or wants to offer her dick, in the famous words of Chris Rock. Women think that men want them all the time, or they're being pursued by men for a relationship, when in fact most of them are actually pursuing them just to give them dick and bounce. That's typically how a lot of these men work. That's typically how a lot of what I would say about 90% of the men who pursue women, they just want to offer them dick. It's pretty. I'm willing to even go higher than that. I would say, but I'm going to say 90% of men who actually pursue women actually just want to pass them the dick. That's all it really is. About 10% of them actually want a relationship with them. And that's the cold hard truth when it comes to women. And it's something that women don't seem to understand. And they try to always place their value on sex or how many men want to have sex with them when in fact, yeah, that's sex. That's not a relationship. It's one thing to value yourself on sex. It's another thing to value yourself on how many men actually want to have a relationship with you. Because this is typically where women get messed up or jammed up when it comes down to it. They try to value themselves based on men wanting sex with them on a hunch that they actually want to be in a relationship with them, when in fact it's just sex. It's just sex. And that's the cold hard truth about it. Like, it's just sex. They don't want a relationship with you. They just want to have sex with you. And the funny thing about it, though, women always try to equate sex to a relationship, or something along the lines of that, especially in this day and age where, like, they're trying to now bend the rules on what a relationship is, what or not a relationship isn't, for all intents and purposes. And the sad part about that, just because you have a lot of sex, that doesn't mean you're very valuable. This is another one of those things that women trick themselves into believing when it comes to men. Men because they want a man with a decent body count. They believe men want women with a decent body count. And they'll try to equate that to she has more experience or she knows what she's doing in the bedroom, when in fact, no, that's actually false. The sad part about that, the women who have the most sex actually suck in the bedroom the most. Sadly, women who have the most sex actually suck in the bedroom the most at it, which is actually pretty darn funny once you think about it. Like, think about that. The women who have sex the most suck in the bedroom. And this is what I mean. It's one of those things where it's like, this is what I mean by that. Like, a lot of these women who have the most sex end up not really know how to work their hips or, do anything else besides jump on you like a pogo stick. They only know one move and one move only, or they know how to lay on their back. That's it. Can't move their hips, can't move anything else, can't be bothered to move in rhythm or anything like that, for all intents and purposes, because they just suck at it. Because they believe sex is supposed to be, that's what sex is. When in fact, sex is an art. Sex is an art. And if you can't really do that, you'll run into these problems and you'll wonder why you can't really ever progress in life, or you wonder why you can't always, get what you want or understand what's going on in your life, for all intents and purposes, because and that's very true. That's very true. When it comes down to it, that's what they believe. They believe that they can bag a guy like that, and it's like some fantasy stuff. Because the sad part about that, women live in fantasy world. Women live in a fantasy world for sure. Because like they read all these books and they get all hopped up on these illusions and these books and shit like that, and they believe this stuff and they want to believe in romance, but romance is really fake for all intents and purposes. Because another topic that I wanted to get into in this live stream is this. I was talked about this in another one about love and lust. Men love, women lust. Here's what I mean by that. A good example of that is if you're in a relationship. What's up, Birmingham? Yeah, they get 50 shades of that. That's about it. And the sad part about that is, what I mean by that is, men love, women lust. Here's what I mean by that. Like, the sad part about that, a man can love a woman no matter what he does. If a woman cheats on a man, she doesn't love that man. She's already moved on emotionally. And this is one of those things where, like, people go, well, she's still with her husband. No, she's with her husband because that other guy don't really have finances to actually, quench her thirst. This is why she's still with her husband. This is what you don't understand. Her husband got the finances, and the guy that she's sleeping with has a dick. Let's just keep it 100. Or, or another thing where, like, you get these op-eds where women say they cheated on her husband, he doesn't know about it, and they feel really, really good, and they've never felt so connected to their husband in a long time. That's not feeling connected to your husband. That's called guilt. That's really called guilt, lady. That's not you being connected to your husband. Yeah, in the famous words of Freaky Jersey Tales, they're delusional, mate. They're delusional. They're delusional, mate. They're delusional. But yeah, it's stuff like that that just blows my mind when women get themselves into those messes and they believe that this is what it is. And the sad part about that, back to the whole entire men love, women lust. This is typically what you get at the end of relationships when you hear a woman say, I'm not in love with you no more. The fact of the matter is she was never in love with you. She was only lusting after you. She was only there for the butterflies moment in the the new feeling for all intents and purposes, or as they refer to it, the honeymoon phase. And a honeymoon phase doesn't last that damn long, depending on a relationship and a person's demeanor and stuff like that, or people's attitude. It doesn't last that long. It doesn't last too long at all in this day and age. Because at the end of the day, women will fall out of love with the person that women will fall out of lust with the person they're supposedly in love with. I would say about 2-3 years max. It's very rare that a woman still is in love with their significant other. Because at the end of the day, like my grandmother says, when you first meet the person, you fall in love with that person. Throughout the many years that you're with that person, the longer you're with that person, you wake up every day and choose to continuously love that person. This is typically how it works. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be in a relationship. If you can't choose to love the person every day, you have to make excuses for why you stepped outside your relationship. This is typically your problem, not their problem. Because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like I've always talked about, like if you can't talk to your significant other about your problems, you shouldn't be in a relationship with your significant other at all, and at least then. And you can't use excuses on why you're doing the stupid shit that you're doing for the fact that this is your choice. You woke up this morning and this is what you decided to do. When you went to bed, before you woke up, this is what you decided to do. And the sad part about that is women do this on a regular basis and they always try to pass the blame on the men when in fact it's actually them who actually made this decision for themselves. Like a good example of that is, the women who will pick a fight just to get into a fight so they can justify going out to the bar and cheating on their significant other. This is typically how this works. They use that to justify, well, he was mad at me and I'm mad at him, so I'm going out to the bar and I'm going to have myself a good time and I'm going to sleep with this guy over here, or sleep with the bartender, or sleep with the waiter, or sleep with it's just stuff like that. And it's like, this is typically how that works. Or they'll get into an argument with you and get into a fight with you on your way to work. Then they're banging the pool boy or the lawn guy or the, the mailman or the delivery guy, just stuff like that. And they just make up these convoluted excuses on why they get away with cheating all the time. And the sad part about that is men tend to buy into this stuff and believe this stuff quite often when in fact they shouldn't. The sad part about that, she lusts the person that she cheated with. That's typically all it is. She doesn't love the person she cheated with. She lusted the person she cheated with. Just like she lusted her husband in the first place, or her significant other in the first place, she lusted the person that she cheated with. That's all it really is. Because to be honest with you, very few women actually fall in love. Not all women fall in love. They just fall in lust, which is actually the thing. Most women fall in the lust. They don't fall in love. Lust and love can be very blinding. This is how you know when a woman falls into lust. If she can sit up there and miss every single red flag that's going off with her significant other, she's in lust. She's not in love. So love goggles don't even mean a thing to her because she's not in love. You can't say she has love goggles. She has lust goggles. This is typically how that works. She can overlook an abusive man. She can overlook a controlling man. She can overlook a man that's a criminal. She can overlook every single thing based on lust. Like the sad part about that, the reason why women fall into bad boys is because it's just lust. It's not love. It's lust. So women lust after bad boys. They love betas, but they lust after bad boys. And this is typically one of those things where like you basically have to. This is typically why we always refer to it as beta bucks, alpha fucks, basically, even though alphas are dead. But the sad part about that, this is typically how a lot of this stuff ends up working. Like she's lusting after the bad boy. That's all it really is. She's just lusting after the bad boy. She loves the idea of a stable relationship, but she's lusting after the bad boy. That's the best way I can put it to you in very little words. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you start looking at things and you start understanding stuff. What's up, McTownwin? You start looking at things and you understand it a lot better. She doesn't love anybody. She loves everybody. She loves the idea of a stable, healthy relationship, but she lusts after relationships where she never know what's going to happen, minute from minute, hour from hour, day from day. For all intents and purposes, is typically how that actually works. You say British accent. Got to get more of this. And the sad part about that is like women tend to fall into this problem a lot in relationships, and they oh I love no you don't I can tell you don't already off the bat. You don't love him. You love you love what he can do for you, or you love how he makes you feel. That's pretty much all it really is. You love how he makes you feel. Well, actually, I should say you lust how he makes you feel. Because the sad part about there's a reason why women can cheat on their significant others in a normal, safe, comforting life with a person that's who doesn't have anything going for them, and just acts a straight fool in public. This is typically why this even works and happens a lot. Because at the end of the day, if they really loved the person like they claim they would, they wouldn't actually do the stupid shit that they get themselves into. And this is the cold hard truth when it comes to women. If they actually loved the person like they claimed they did, they wouldn't get themselves into the messes that they get themselves into in the first damn place. And this is where a lot of women lose. This is where a lot of people get jammed up. This is where a lot of people tend to get themselves into the messes that they're in. Because at the end of the day, yeah, it's very true. They are selfish. They are selfish. It's all about their needs, not nobody else's needs. Because and I always found it funny how men are always the evil ones when in fact you read news story after news story of like a married woman, a married teacher sleeping with a student, or a teacher falling in love with one of her students, or she's cheating on her husband with the cook or the gardener or the pool boy, or any and all these problems. Because at the end of the day, if you ever notice, as of late, there's been a lot of op-eds coming up saying that we as human beings, we as human beings aren't meant to be monogamous. No, it's not the fact that we as human beings aren't meant to be monogamous. They're basically trying to clean the slate of women, because women aren't meant to be monogamous. Women aren't meant to be monogamous in the least bit. And this is pretty much what it is. Women aren't meant to be monogamous. It's just true. They're trying to say all humans are meant to be monogamous when in fact what they mean is women. They've done studies and it's women who are not meant to be monogamous. Case in point, throughout history, anytime a person raided or pillaged a village back in history, typically what happens is they take the women, and the women tend to just go along with it. You see what I'm saying? Whereas the men, if they take men alive, men tend to rebel, whereas women go along with it. You see how that works in history? Men will fight for their freedoms and their culture back, whereas women would just be like, huh, I guess I could like it here. I guess I could learn to love it here. And that's typically women's thoughts on a lot of this stuff. Well, I guess I could like this. I guess I could learn to like this, or this new culture could be good for me. I can survive, and because at the end of the day, it's all about their survivability rate. If they can't survive, then they won't. They won't. They won't. If they can't survive, if their survivability rate is very low, they're willing to go where their survivability rate is really, really high. That's typically how a lot of this stuff works. And people always fail to see this, and people don't realize this when it's actually going down, that this is typically women in a nutshell. They'll go where the survivability rate is the greatest. Good example, Genghis Khan. He came through raping and pillaging, capturing women. All the women basically went along with them. He may capture men every now and again, but he was always worried about the backlash from men just rebelling. It's typically what usually happened. This is typically why a lot of this stuff, after he died, or a lot of stuff just fell apart and everybody went back to their normal lives basically because of it. Because men are going to rebel. Women are going to capitulate. Women are going to be agreeable, and men are going to always rebel. That's typically how that works. And the sad part about that is, even throughout history, we've seen this multiple times on many levels and many different historical things. That anytime a group of men are captured, there's going to be a rebellion. Like legit. There's going to be a rebellion. It's very rare when you actually see a woman that's down for the cause for a rebellion. It's very rare. Very, very rare. And usually that means she's actually benefiting from this greatly. Usually is the reason why she's down for this rebellion. And there's like a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel that's like, a 90% chance or a 70% chance that this is the reason why she's participating in this in the first place. Whereas a man, like, if there's even a 30% chance, if there's even a 10% chance, he's going to rebel. And this is typically how this works. Like, men are more likely to rebel for this reason because they like their freedoms and they like their creature comforts of being their own man. They don't like to have to follow some strict guidelines or codes or rules for all intents and purposes. They don't have to. And this is typically why the new op-eds are coming out talking about human beings aren't meant to be monogamous, because they're really trying to put a foothold on the family unit. They're trying to put this, even though the family unit is like that, damn, they're in decline. It pretty much is in decline, but they're really trying to put their foot on the neck of the family unit in this day and age for that reason, because it's not the fact that humans are meant to be monogamous. It's more or less the fact that women aren't really meant to be monogamous based on history. Like, think about it. Every single time, like I said, a village was raped and pillaged. Instead of fighting for their village, women tend to just go with the victors. That's typically how it works. Women are always going to go with the victors. We see this in this day and age too, with women who always put two men against each other to see who will win in the fight. And the sad part about that is, it's not the fact that she's not really worried about you. It's more or less the fact that she's getting a kick out of the fight because she can actually put two men together to fight over her, which boosts her ego, which boosts her confidence, which boosts her overall value. If two men are willing to fight over her, and this is typically why you always see men fighting over women for this reason, because of this. Because the sad part about that is, if a woman wasn't involved, there wouldn't be no fight over her for all intents and purposes. And this is basically how it works. And people don't realize this. People don't realize this when it's going down, and they always want to try to make it so that it's, they always want to try to make it so that it's the new norm. Because at the end of the day, like I was saying about when it comes to new norms, when it comes to women need these new norms so they can feel equal to men. All these new norms are nothing more than just to feel equal or superior to men. That's all it really is. This whole entire fat acceptance thing. Because, like, at the end of the day, like I said, there's a difference between acceptance and forcing it down my throat. You can be fat all you want to, but just know I'm not going to date you. That's simply how I feel about it. It's like, no, I don't, no. Because at the end of the day, I look at it like this. If you're going to do that, that actually lets me know that you're not healthy. And if you're not healthy, I don't want to date you. And if I don't want to date you, that's a bad thing. It's a play on words, hidden. Good Lord. It was a play on words, hidden. But at the end of the day, smart Alec. What's up, hidden? But at the end of the day, you got to actually think about what's best for you as a guy. You got to think about what's best for you as a female. And the sad part about that is women are very good at doing that, but unfortunately, instead of actually accepting what's good for them, they'll try to move the goalposts or change the rules on what's good for them so they can make it so that everybody has to accept. Everybody has to accept the fact that they're not happy, or everybody has to accept the fact that she's in a bad mood, or everybody has to accept the fact that, that everybody has to accept the fact that, she's not, instead of actually, accepting the fact that she's not happy, or accepting the fact that she's not right and everything's going bad for her, everybody has to accept the fact that, we have to capitulate to all this other greatness, all this crazy stuff that she got us going through because of the feelings. And the sad part about that is, nobody really wants to do that, and everybody wants to be their own man. Nobody wants to button. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button. Um, yeah, hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. But it's one of those things where like it's one of those things where like you have to worry about a lot of the stuff that you get yourselves into as men, because at the end of the day, a lot of men are actually walking into blind spots or walking into Venus flytraps for all intents and purposes. The best way to do it. Um, and the sad part about that is when you get yourselves into these messes, you find out very quickly how bad it is or how worse the situation could possibly get. Because you don't want to be one of those people who are literally with a woman who don't want you. You want to be one of them people who are in a relationship because she wants you and she wants you around and she enjoys your actual company. You don't want to be in a relationship with her because she lusts after you. Um, the running joke is now, if you ever seen a lot of the photos, there's photos of Justin Trudeau where like they got you want somebody to look at you the same way all the people look at Justin Trudeau in these pictures. And the sad part about that is that's true, but at the end of the day, is that lust or is that love? Because there's a photo of like Ivanka Trump looking at him and like doting or in the loving way, basically, or like an admiring way. And then you have Prince Kate Upton looking at him like that too. You also got Donald Trump looking at him that way, and there's like another woman that's looking at him in that manner also, which is actually pretty darn funny. And it's and like we always make jokes about that stuff, but like at the end of the day, though, do you really want somebody that looks at you like that? Do you really want somebody that really looks at you like that? Because you got to think about stuff like that at the end of the day when it comes down to it. Because it's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of like what I said in that one video. Why is she with me? Why is she with me? That's something that you got to figure out for yourself as a man. Because at the end of the day, you as a man have to realize why a woman is actually with you. You have to actually look deep within yourself to figure out why a woman is actually with you. Don't be making up any excuses on why she's with you. And the sad part about it, there are a lot of men that will sit up here and say, you know, this woman's with me because of this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, they're living with a woman. Like, wait, is she with you or are you with her? Let's keep it 100. Because if you're living in her house, that means you're with her. She's not with you. That's typically how that works. This is where a lot of men mess up. This is where a lot of men get into the messes that they get into. This is where a lot of the men don't seem to understand or get. No, because like a lot of people look at them in a very adoring way, hidden. But yeah, it's one of those things where like you just got to figure that out for yourself. If she's with you because of the money, that's the reason why she's with you. She's with you because of the dick that you lay on her. That's the reason why she's with you. Because the sad part about that, women will always be with you for a certain reason. They'll never be with you because love. They'll be with you because a certain thing that you're providing for them. Let it be dick, let it be money, let it be a roof over her head, let it be nice things, let it be status, let it be, vacations, let it be a private jet, let it be anything for all intents and purposes. They're only with you for that reason. They're not with you because of multiple reasons. They're only with you because of that reason. And that and what you provide for them is all they're really with you. Because if that was the case, then there wouldn't be there wouldn't be like 40% of women actually having sugar daddies. Let's just keep 100. Yeah, because And the sad part about that, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, that's pretty much all it really is. Women are with you for a reason, and a reason only. One reason and one reason only. Sometimes two, but mostly they're with you for one reason and one reason only. Let it be money, let it be a place to stay, let it be dick, let it be, what you can do for them, status, how you look, anything like that for all intents and purposes. Usually all it really is and what it really is. It's like they're only with you for one reason or two reasons max. And that's pretty much all it really is. And the faster you learn that as men, the better off you'll be. The better off you'll really be. Um, but that's enough of my time. I got to get going. Yeah, they do. They really do carry contempt for you. I think was what no, I'm sorry. No, it went up like 30 or 40% on the website basically for women having sugar daddies on the sugar daddy website, sugar daddy, sugar baby website. It went up. So a lot of women actually have sugar daddies now. Um, but at the end of the day, I have to end this lovely live stream, this lovely podcast because I got to get going. I have a I have a flight to catch, and y'all have a blessed day. Be good to yourselves. Treat yourselves like milk. Do not but spoil yourselves. Love yourselves. Do better with yourselves, and always improve upon yourselves. It don't matter what your sex, race, creed, or whatever the heck you got going on for yourself is. Always do better with yourself, and always be a better version of yourself. You don't need other people to be a better version of yourself. Well, then again, if you're a woman, you probably need somebody financially to make you a better version of yourself, or you probably need sex. You need to feel like you're accepted sexually to make yourself feel better about yourself. But you do you. But everybody else, do good with yourself, better yourselves, and always do good with yourselves, and never settle for any damn thing. And actually know your actual value and your actual worth, not your fake value or fake worth. Know your actual value or your actual worth. Y'all have a blessed day. Be good, and always be willing to learn and keep an open mind. Be blessed. Good night. Adios. Private jet. He's a trip. Only hidden with that damn private jet.